Here's your Storm Track 7 forecast.
Good Monday morning. I'm Storm Track 7 meteorologist Brandon Libby. It is a Storm Track 7 red alert day for today. If we see storms develop this afternoon and this evening, there will be a significant severe weather event possible, and that's going to be really between 3 p.m. and we'll say midnight. But it's a very conditional threat, so it's a big if as to whether or not these storms develop, and we'll talk about why here. Basically, it comes down to what we call a cap. You've probably heard that here over the weekend. You're going to hear it a lot through today. What a cap is, it's essentially this layer of warm, stable air that's somewhere above the surface. Typically, temperatures cool with height, but then there's this layer of warm air where temperatures warm with height. And essentially, to get storms and clouds and rain to develop, you need the air to rise. It keeps rising up until that warm, stable layer, and then it just stops because it can't go through that warm air. And so essentially a cap acts as a lid on the atmosphere that will suppress storm development. Now, if you have no cap at all, or it's a very weak cap, well, then you could easily have showers and storms develop, but that actually would work against severe storms because if things would go off too early, you wouldn't have things lining up with the peak instability at the ground. But if you have this weak cap, and you also have a lot of warm temperatures or moist conditions where the dew points are really high at the ground, and then you also have some sort of lift to get that unstable air up and over that cap or through the cap, well, then you can get some pretty explosive storm development. And that's kind of the line that we're walking here for today. Will we break the cap? Will we not break the cap? That is the question. And so we'll have to look for some afternoon destabilization. Do the clouds this morning and the rain and the storms, do they clear out in time to give us some sunshine, to get our temperatures up into the 80s and to get our dew points up into the 60s? That would help the severe threat later on this afternoon, and it would help the cap to break. But of course, whether or not that cap breaks just really has an influence on the timing of storms, whether or not we see storms, and then the hazards that we could face. So there's a lot that we'll know as the day goes on and just kind of how things are trending. And there's also probably going to be a special weather balloon that gets sent up by the National Weather Service, basically the middle of the day. That will give us an idea of how the atmosphere is behaving and how strong that cap is. So we'll know more on what could happen later on as we go through the day. Two scenarios that we're looking at here. One is a bit more likely, and that's that we're going to bust out, which means that the cap will hold and storms cannot develop. If that happens, well, then significant severe weather and really any severe weather would look unlikely, and there could be the chance for some storms later on tonight between 9 p.m. and midnight. That's going to be off of the cold front sweeping through, and those may be strong to marginally severe, but that really high-end severe risk would look unlikely if the cap holds. Now, if the cap breaks, which is, again, unlikely as of right now, but it's not a 0% chance. If that happens, you would get what we call discrete supercells. Supercells, that's just a rotating storm. Discrete, meaning that they're basically by themselves and they can tap into all that volatile atmosphere as much as they want to, and they can produce some significant severe weather, as in tornadoes being strong or EF2 or greater, very large hail, which could be the size of baseballs. And that would be most likely between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. if the cap were to break. And then you'd probably still get that second round of storms that come through overnight with the cold front sweeping by. So maybe 2 rounds of storms possible. Let's take a look at future track and what some of the latest data shows, because what's happening out there right now, we have cloud cover and we're probably going to have a few scattered showers and storms. Some of those storms here, especially in our northern counties this morning to about noon, well, they could be strong, trying to produce some small hail and heavy rainfall. That's not the severe event we're worried about. That should swing out for the afternoon. And then the question becomes, do we get rid of this cloud cover, which would help to get our temperatures up, and it gets pretty humid, and that would help more storms to develop. Well, some of the data suggests that the cloud cover will stick around overhead, which would really keep our temperatures cooler, would squash much of the severe threat. You can see the air is trying to rise, hence these weak showers, but they run into that cap and they can't get any stronger than what you see here. That being said, look out to the west. This is really untapped air as far as cloud cover is concerned. Really warm, really humid, and a little bit more lift in the atmosphere. And that's where these supercells begin to pop up. And those are what we really would worry about. And those kind of sweep off to the north and to the east, maybe even missing us completely off into Minnesota, although a slightly higher chance to see them north of Highway 20 for today. And then basically it would be after sunset by that point, and we have the cold front coming through, giving us that chance for some storms to develop, but they move out pretty quickly, and the severe threat would be going down after sunset. Basically after that, it would be clouds decreasing through tomorrow and a much nicer day on the way. So again, it's this boom or bust scenario, and it really just comes down to that cap. However, what you should be doing, regardless of what happens this afternoon, make sure you're paying attention to the evolving forecasts and how the conditions are changing, especially here through the midday and into the afternoon. Have multiple ways to receive alerts on your phone. Download the Storm Track 7 weather app. Have your weather radio ready to go, and be ready to act if a warning does come out. Especially if you're at home, at school, at work, no matter where you are, have that plan in place, even on the go. Just know what to do if a warning is issued. Again, a reminder between a watch and a warning, there could be watches that come out. That means conditions are favorable for severe weather over the next several hours. You'd probably see watches coming out about the middle of the day as we start to learn more of what could happen through the afternoon. And then a warning would be issued when the storm is actually happening, and that means imminent danger and you need to take shelter. Now, another part of today that will not be related to the storms, it's just going to be very windy. Gusts of 45 miles per hour, sustained at 20 to 30, coming in from the south. Now, that will bring in some warmth and some humidity, regardless if we clear out the clouds or not. This is the warmest I think we could get. High temperatures mid-70s to about the mid-80s. This would put us close to breaking the cap, but that's still a maybe at that point. And this is if we get some clearing in the middle of the day after the morning clouds and the morning showers and storms. So again, that's why this whole setup for today is such a big if. Otherwise, we go into tonight, the storms continue as the cold front moves through. Behind the cold front, we drop to the mid-40s to about the low 50s out there. Still a little bit windy. And then for tomorrow, the clouds will clear and it's looking like a nice day. High temperatures about the low to mid-60s. The winds will die down through the day too. Here's your city-by-city forecast as we go into Wednesday. It's another chance for rain moving in. Highs about the low to mid-60s. And we'll have rain continuing into Thursday. After that, pretty nice forecast. 70s into the weekend as we're dry. And we're looking pretty warm for next week as we could be into the 80s.